Girl says, "I know you. Your picture is in my mom's bag," to Millionaire, shocking him. On a bright afternoon in Central Park, 10-year-old Lira and her mother, Clara, encounter the enigmatic billionaire Ethan Blackwood, a man from Clara's past. When Lira innocently reveals their connection, it sparks a reunion laden with unspoken history and unresolved emotions. As past and present collide, they must navigate the delicate balance of rekindled ties and the impact on their future. What secrets lie behind Ethan's charm, and how will this chance meeting reshape their lives? On a sun-drenched afternoon in New York City, the vibrant colors of Central Park came alive, blending the lush greens of the trees with the bright hues of flowers in bloom. Lira, a bright-eyed 10-year-old with tousled brown hair, skipped alongside her mother, Clara. The park buzzed with laughter, the sound of children playing on the grass, and the distant chime of a street performer's guitar. Lira's hand clutched at a small sketchbook, her sketching pencils tucked safely in her other hand, eager to capture the world around her. "Mom, look at that," Lira exclaimed, pointing towards a group of children playing tag beneath the shade of a sprawling oak tree. The way they laughed and darted about filled her with an undeniable sense of joy. Clara smiled, her heart swelling with affection for her daughter. "They look like they're having so much fun, don't they?" she replied, her voice soft yet filled with warmth. Despite the struggles that weighed on her heart, moments like this made everything seem more bearable. Clara's gaze drifted to Lira, who was already lost in her imagination, envisioning herself as one of those carefree children. As they continued their stroll, Lira's eyes widened at the sight of a man striding confidently along the path. Dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, with a crisp white shirt and a sleek black tie, he exuded an air of sophistication and mystery. His dark hair was neatly combed back, and his piercing blue eyes scanned the surroundings, taking in the vibrant life of the park. Lira couldn't help but stare, her curiosity piqued. "Who's that, Mom?" she whispered, tugging at Clara's sleeve, her voice barely above a hush. Clara glanced over, her heart sinking slightly as she recognized the figure. "That's Ethan Blackwood, sweetheart. He's a very successful businessman," she replied, her tone laced with an undercurrent of something unspoken. Memories of the past flickered in her mind, days filled with hope and ambition, long before the world had changed them both. "What does he do?" Lira pressed, her youthful innocence making her oblivious to the complexities surrounding the man before them. "He runs a big company," Clara answered, trying to keep her tone neutral. "He's done a lot for the city, but..." She hesitated, grappling with her own feelings about Ethan. "But sometimes success comes at a cost." Lira tilted her head, her brow furrowing in confusion. "What do you mean?" Before Clara could elaborate, Lira's voice rang out, filled with that childlike certainty. "I know you. Your picture is in my mom's bag." Lira called to Ethan, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Ethan stopped mid-stride, a look of surprise washing over his face. He turned to Lira, and for a moment, the busy world around them faded into the background. "Oh, is that so?" he replied, a hint of amusement curling his lips. "And what would a wonderful young artist like you be doing with my picture?" Lira grinned, her innocence shining through. "My mom is an artist. She painted you a long time ago. I think it's really cool." Clara's heart raced as she watched the interaction unfold. She had not anticipated Lira's boldness nor the unexpected reunion that hung in the air like a thick fog. Ethan's expression shifted from surprise to curiosity, and Clara could see the flicker of recognition in his eyes. "Your mother painted me?" Ethan mused, his voice rich and smooth as honey. "I'd like to see it sometime. I didn't know I had inspired an artist." Clara approached cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. "Lira, honey, maybe we should move along," she suggested gently, trying to steer her daughter away from a situation that felt all too complicated. But Lira, with her radiant enthusiasm, was undeterred. "No, Mom. He's really nice. You should say hi." She turned back to Ethan. "What do you think of my mom's art? Is it really good?" Ethan chuckled, a sound that was both warm and inviting. "I wouldn't know yet, but if it's anything like the way you speak about it, I'm sure it's fantastic," he replied, his eyes sparkling with amusement. "What's your name, young lady?" "Lira," she announced proudly. And this is my mom, Clara. She gestured toward Clara, who stood a few steps back, torn between stepping forward and retreating into anonymity. Clara, Ethan echoed, his voice softer now, as though the name held a weight of its own. It's a pleasure to meet you again. I didn't expect to see you here. He stepped closer, his gaze steady on Clara, a mix of nostalgia and something deeper reflecting in his eyes. Clara forced a smile, her heart racing as old memories flooded back, moments of laughter, dreams shared, and the bittersweet taste of love that had once been vibrant and alive. It's been a long time, Ethan, she managed to say, her voice steadier than she felt. Too long, he replied, his expression growing serious. I've been meaning to check in on you. I heard you were still painting. Yes, I am, Clara replied, trying to keep her composure. Just not as much as I'd like to. She glanced at Lira, who was blissfully unaware of the emotional undercurrents swirling between the two adults. You're an artist? Lira exclaimed, her eyes wide with admiration. That's so cool, Mom. You should paint more. Ethan smiled at Lira's enthusiasm, feeling a strange fondness for the girl who had unwittingly brought them together. I agree, he said, looking back at Clara. You should paint more. Your work deserves to be seen. Clara felt a mix of emotions, a yearning for the past, a flicker of hope for the future, and an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. I've just been busy, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan nodded, understanding the weight of unfulfilled dreams. I get that. Life has a way of distracting us from what we truly love. But it's never too late to rediscover it, he said, his voice earnest. Lira, sensing the tension, interjected, Can we go to the playground now? I want to swing. Ethan chuckled, the tension momentarily lifted by Lira's exuberance. Sounds like a plan. But first, how about I take a quick look at that painting? I'm curious to see how I turned out, he teased, a playful grin lighting up his face. Clara hesitated, her heart racing at the idea of sharing her art with someone who had once meant so much to her. It's just an old portrait, she said, trying to downplay it. Ethan raised an eyebrow, a knowing smile playing on his lips. Old or new, I'd love to see it. After all, a portrait holds more than just an image. It captures a story. Lira, ever the enthusiastic peacemaker, clapped her hands together. Let's go home, Mom. We can show him. Clara exchanged a glance with Ethan, filled with uncertainty, but also a flicker of hope. Could this chance meeting lead to something more, an opportunity to reconnect, to heal old wounds? All right, she finally said, her voice steadying. Let's go home. As they turned to leave, Lira skipping ahead, Clara felt the weight of her past and the promise of a new chapter intertwining, both thrilling and terrifying. With every step, she sensed the possibility of redemption, a chance to embrace the artist within her once more. And as Ethan walked beside her, she couldn't help but wonder if this was the beginning of a journey they both needed to take. As sunlit afternoon draped Central Park in golden hues, the air filled with laughter and the rustling of leaves, Lira, with her curly hair bouncing as she walked, pulled her mother Clara along the winding paths, her eyes wide with wonder. They had just come from the lake, where ducks splashed and children chased each other, and now they wandered further into the heart of the park. Mom, can we get ice cream? Lira asked, her voice breaking through Clara's thoughts. Clara smiled, distracted by the worries of her art career, which seemed to hang by a thread. Sure, sweetheart. Let's find a cart, she replied, trying to focus on the moment rather than the weight of her unfulfilled dreams. As they strolled, Lira's gaze flitted from one vibrant flower to another, her youthful exuberance infectious. Suddenly, her attention was captured by a tall figure standing beneath a large oak tree. He was impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, his dark hair slicked back, and he exuded an air of both charm and mystery. It was Ethan Blackwood, the billionaire whose life had become the subject of many tabloids and gossip columns. Mom, look, it's him, Lira exclaimed, pointing excitedly. Clara's heart skipped a beat. She recognized him instantly, the man she had painted years ago, a time when his face was not yet marred by the burdens of wealth and fame. Shoo, Lira, don't shout, Clara whispered, her voice laced with a mixture of awe and apprehension. She felt a rush of emotions, nostalgia, regret, and an unexpected flicker of hope. Lira, however, was undeterred. She walked towards Ethan, her small feet taking her closer to the enigmatic man who seemed so out of place in the park. Clara hesitated, her instincts urging her to pull Lira back, but the girl's curiosity was unstoppable. "Excuse me, sir," Lira said, her voice clear and innocent as she approached Ethan. "I know you. Your picture is in my mom's bag." Ethan's brow furrowed, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Oh, really? Your mother is an artist." He leaned down to meet Lira at eye level, intrigued by this bold little girl. "Yes, she painted you a long time ago." "I saw the picture." Lira beamed, completely oblivious to the weight of the moment. Clara, who had taken a few hesitant steps forward, felt her heart race. What would Ethan say? As Clara finally stepped into view, Ethan's expression shifted from surprise to recognition. "Clara," he breathed, his voice barely above a whisper. The years had transformed them both, yet the connection lingered like an echo from the past. "It's been a long time," Clara replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. She felt exposed, as if the years of struggle were laid bare before him. "Indeed it has. I didn't know you had a daughter," Ethan said, his gaze flicking to Lira, who was now fidgeting with the hem of her shirt, unaware of the emotional current swirling around her. "Lira, this is Ethan Blackwood," Clara introduced, her heart pounding. "He's someone I used to know." "Are you famous?" Lira asked, her eyes wide with admiration. "Are you a superhero?" Ethan chuckled, the tension in the air easing slightly. "Not quite a superhero, but I try my best to make a difference in the world." "And what about you, young lady? What do you want to be when you grow up?" "I want to be an artist like my mom," Lira declared proudly, her little chest puffing out with confidence. "I love to paint." Ethan's smile faltered for just a moment as he glanced at Clara, who was watching her daughter with a mixture of pride and sadness. "Art is a wonderful thing. It connects people," he said softly, his voice carrying a deeper meaning that Clara could almost grasp. Clara cleared her throat, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. "Ethan, it's good to see you. I didn't expect to run into you here." "I didn't expect to run into you either." "How have you been?" he asked, his tone shifting to something more personal, more sincere. "Surviving," Clara replied with a wry smile. "It's been tough, but Lira keeps me going." "I can imagine," Ethan replied, his gaze softening as he looked at Lira, who was now drawing imaginary pictures in the air with her fingers. "Children have a way of giving us hope." Clara felt a surge of emotions as she recalled the dreams they once shared, the promises they made in their youth, now overshadowed by the choices each had made. "And what about you? You seem... Well, I see you're doing well for yourself," she said, trying to mask the bitterness that threatened to surface. Ethan's expression darkened slightly. "Success is a double-edged sword," he admitted, glancing away as if searching for something in the distance. "It comes with its own set of burdens." Lira, sensing the change in mood, tugged at Clara's sleeve. "Can we get that ice cream now?" she asked, her eyes wide and innocent, oblivious to the adult conversation unfolding around her. Clara nodded, grateful for the interruption. "Of course, sweetheart. Let's go find the cart," she said, forcing a smile. She took Lyra's hand, but Ethan stepped forward, blocking their path. "Wait," he said, his voice firm yet gentle. "Why don't we all go together? I'd like to treat you both." Clara hesitated, a whirlwind of emotions crashing within her. It felt strange to accept an invitation from him, yet the thought of spending more time with the man who had once been so significant in her life was tempting. Okay," Clara replied cautiously, her voice shaky. "But just for ice cream." "Just for ice cream," Ethan agreed, a hint of warmth returning to his demeanor. Lira bounced on her feet, excited at the prospect of sharing a treat with a man she admired. As they walked together toward the ice cream cart, Lira launched into a story about her last art project, animatedly describing her painting of a dragon that breathed fire. Ethan listened intently, a smile playing on his lips as he engaged with her innocent enthusiasm. "Dragons are powerful creatures," he said, nodding. "They can teach us a lot about courage and strength." "Yeah, and they can fly," Lira exclaimed. "Mom says that art can make us fly too, like in our imaginations." "That's true," Ethan said, glancing at Clara, who was watching her daughter with a mixture of pride and nostalgia. "Art sets us free." Clara felt a warmth spread through her chest at Ethan's words. For a brief moment, the past faded, and she was reminded of the dreams they had shared, dreams that had seemed so bright and full of promise. When they reached the ice cream cart, the vendor greeted them with a wide smile. "What can I get for you three?" he asked, his eyes twinkling. I want chocolate with sprinkles," Lira declared, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I'll have vanilla, please," Clara said, her heart still racing from the unexpected reunion. "And for me, a scoop of everything," Ethan said with a playful grin. "I think I can handle it." As they waited for their orders, Clara stole glances at Ethan. The years had carved lines into his face, but his eyes still held a glimmer of the passion she once knew. "Do you still paint?" he asked Clara, breaking the silence that had fallen between them. "I try," she replied, her voice softening. "But it's hard to find the time and inspiration." Ethan nodded, understanding. "I know how that is. Sometimes the world takes over, and we lose sight of what truly matters." "Yeah," Clara said, her heart aching with unspoken words. "Sometimes it feels like I'm just surviving, not really living." "Maybe it's time to change that," he suggested, his tone earnest. "You have a gift, Clara. Don't let it go to waste." The vendor returned with their ice cream, and Lira squealed with delight as she received her cone, the chocolate drizzled with colorful sprinkles. Clara accepted her vanilla scoop, and Ethan took his bowl overflowing with various flavors. "Let's find a bench," he said, gesturing toward a nearby spot where the sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting playful shadows on the ground. As they settled onto the bench, Lira took a big bite of her ice cream, her face lighting up with joy. Clara watched her daughter, her heart swelling with love and a hint of sadness. "Do you have a favorite flavor?" Lira asked Ethan, her mouth full. "Honestly, I think I love them all," he replied with a chuckle. "But I have a soft spot for mint chocolate chip. It reminds me of summer days when I was a kid." "Me too," Lira exclaimed, her eyes shining. "I want to paint a picture of that flavor. A mint chocolate chip ice cream dragon." Ethan laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "That sounds amazing. You should definitely do that. Art can bring your ideas to life." Clara watched the exchange, a mixture of hope and apprehension filling her heart. In that moment, she realized that perhaps this unexpected encounter with Ethan was not just a chance meeting, as trees swayed gently in the warm breeze of Central Park, casting playful shadows on the lush grass where Lira and her mother, Clara, stood. Lyra's wide eyes were filled with wonder, and Clara couldn't help but smile as she watched her daughter soak in the beauty of the day. The sounds of laughter and chatter filled the air, but amidst it all, a palpable tension lingered as they remained near Ethan Blackwood. "Mom, he looks just like the man in your bag," Lira exclaimed, breaking the silence. Her innocent words hung in the air, drawing Clara's attention back to the man she had tried so hard to forget. Clara's heart raced as she glanced at Ethan, who now seemed frozen in place, his expression a mixture of surprise and intrigue. The memory of painting his portrait flooded her mind, a bittersweet reminder of her past, the dreams she once had, the love she had lost, and the life she had chosen. "Yes, sweetheart," Clara replied softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "He's someone I knew a long time ago." Ethan took a step closer, his curiosity piqued by the child's innocent observation. "You remember me?" he asked, kneeling down to Lyra's level, his tailored suit contrasting sharply with the casual attire of the parkgoers around them. Lira nodded earnestly, her ponytail swaying. "My mom painted you. She said you were famous. I think you look really nice in the picture." Clara's cheeks flushed a deep crimson as she felt the weight of Lyra's words. She had never intended for her daughter to be a part of this world, a world where fame and fortune overshadowed the lives of those left behind. "Is that so?" Ethan smiled, though there was a hint of melancholy in his voice. "Your mother is an incredibly talented artist. I've seen her work." Clara's heart ached at the compliment, but she could feel the memories tugging at her. She began, but the words caught in her throat. How could she explain to her daughter the complexities of their intertwined lives? "Mom, can we take a picture together?" Lira interrupted, her excitement bubbling over. "You and Mr. Blackwood." Sure, sweetheart." Clara forced a smile, her hands trembling slightly as she dug for her phone. Ethan stood up, straightening his jacket, an amused glint in his eye as he watched the little girl bounce with enthusiasm. "All right, let's do it," he said, positioning himself next to Clara, who was still grappling with the whirlwind of emotions. Lira stood in the middle, beaming brightly as Clara captured the moment. "Say cheese," Lira shouted, her joy infectious. Clara managed a laugh as the photo clicked, but deep down, the weight of their history loomed larger than ever. As Lira admired the picture on the screen, Clara turned to Ethan, her voice low but firm. "We need to talk." Ethan raised an eyebrow, sensing the gravity in her tone. "I didn't come here to cause any trouble, Clara. I was just enjoying a day in the park." "Trouble?" "No, it's not about that," she replied, her voice shaking slightly. "It's about what happened between us. What we left behind. Can we move somewhere more private?" he suggested, glancing around as families and couples strolled past, oblivious to the tension brewing in their midst. Clara hesitated, her heart pounding. She had spent years trying to distance herself from Ethan and the memories that haunted her. Yet here he was, standing before her, a reminder of everything she had sacrificed. But Lyra's innocent presence changed everything. "All right," she finally said, fighting against the swell of nostalgia. They walked toward a quieter section of the park, where the chirping of birds and rustling leaves created a serene backdrop. Lira, sensing the weight of the adult conversation, wandered off a few steps ahead, exploring the vibrant flowers and squirrels darting across the path. "Clara," Ethan began, his voice softer now, "I didn't expect to see you again. Not like this." "Neither did I," she admitted, folding her arms defensively. "But here we are. You've become this person everyone admires, and she sighed, frustration mingling with sadness. "I'm still just trying to find my way." Ethan's gaze turned somber. "I've made choices, Clara. Choices that weren't fair to you. To us." He paused, collecting his thoughts. "The last thing I wanted was to hurt you." Clara looked away, fighting back tears. "You didn't just hurt me, Ethan. You left a void. I poured my heart into that painting of you, and after you were gone, that piece of me felt lost." "I know," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I still think about that day. About what could have been." "Do you really?" Clara challenged, meeting his gaze. "It's easy to romanticize the past, Ethan. But you've built this life, this empire. It's not just about what you want anymore." Ethan stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. "And what about you? You're an artist. You deserve to be recognized for your talent, not just as a mother or someone's ex." Clara shook her head, her heart aching. "It's not that simple. I've sacrificed so much to raise Lira. I can't just chase after dreams that feel so far away." "Why not? You have a chance right now," he urged, his voice rising slightly. "Let me help you. I can support your work, Clara. You don't have to do this alone." The offer hung in the air, heavy with implications. Clara felt a surge of anger, mixed with longing. "And what's in it for you, Ethan? A chance to ease your conscience? To feel better about the choices you made?" "No," he replied, shaking his head. "It's not about that. I want to see you succeed. I want to see you shine like you deserve to." Clara looked away, grappling with the emotions swirling inside her. "I don't know if I can trust you," she whispered, the vulnerability in her voice stark. "Trust is built over time," Ethan said gently, his eyes locked on hers. "But I promise you, I'm not the same man who walked away all those years ago. I've learned what really matters." Lira suddenly called out, breaking the tension. "Mom, come look at this." She was crouched by a patch of daisies, her face lit up with excitement. As Clara turned to her daughter, she felt the weight of their conversation linger in the air. Lyra's innocence was a stark contrast to the complexities of adult life, reminding Clara of the simple joys that still existed. She joined her daughter, kneeling beside her to admire the delicate flowers. "Look at how beautiful they are, Mom," Lira exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. "Yes, they really are," Clara replied, a smile breaking through her worries. She looked up at Ethan, who watched them with an expression that mixed admiration and something deeper. Maybe beauty is what we need to focus on right now." Ethan nodded, understanding the unspoken message in her words. "Then let's create beauty together, Clara. Let's not let the past define us." As they stood together, a sense of possibility hung in the air. Clara felt a flicker of hope, even amidst the uncertainty. Perhaps this was a moment of reckoning, a chance to redefine their paths, not just for themselves, but for Lira as well.